Alright guys, so we're moving on to the next stage. So I've got all the crimson clover mulch from yonder pasture cut, collected, and distributed in these mounds all over the donkey pasture. And I was going to use a big ass landscaping, drag harrow, to distribute the mulch over the rest of the field. But I think what I'm going to do first, and I did experiment already and worked pretty well, I'm going to use the box blade. It's a 5-foot box blade. I'm going to use the blade to, as I'll show you, to basically distribute all these mounds for the most part. Then I'll get the drag harrow out and drag the whole thing and distribute it even more. And then the next step would be probably, I'm thinking just a till. Just till everything in. I was going to do a plow and then a till, but I've already plowed this once. I don't think it needs to be plowed again, so I'll just maybe do a shallow till just to get all this mulch incorporated, 3 or 4 inches down into the soil. Give it a month or so to decompose, and then we'll plant this with something. I'm not quite sure what, orchard grass, or I was actually thinking I was going to do a what do they call it? A millet. There's a particular millet that the donkeys would really enjoy, and we can harvest it for us too. So anyway, let's get started, get this tractor cranked up and get some mulch moved. This damn puppy drives me bananas. I've been beating him over the head, physically, literally beating him over the head with a stick all day, because every time I start a tractor and start to move, he bites the tire. I used to shock him with a shock collar, that didn't work. Beating him over the head a couple times today, that didn't work. So I don't know, maybe I need to run over his ass once. Deuce. Out. And away we go. Thought I'd do a little bit of voice over here since I wasn't talking a whole bunch while I was operating the tractor here. But this is what I said I was going to do. So you're seeing me use the box blade, and this, like everything else, I'm kind of making up techniques as I go. So I tried backing over the first one and lifting the box blade about 1 inch off the ground, and basically dragging that pile of compost or mulch and trying to see if it distributes. If you can see the green line behind me, it's actually working out pretty well. As you'll see later in this video, it wasn't always the case. That I just happened to grab a nice dry pile of shavings on the first one, and it worked out really well. I apologize for the back and forth. I'm making myself dizzy watching this thing. But not only am I trying to watch the implement on the back of the tractor, I'm trying to make sure the tractor doesn't run into any of the fencing. More so because the dingbat deuce is constantly around the tractor, and if I'm not careful, one of my biggest fears is that I'll run over him. There he goes right there. He'll run right in front of the damn tractor. So maybe if I was smarter, I'd lock him up all the time and never let him around the tractor when I'm operating it. But he's a farm dog, he's got to learn. So it's just on me to be careful and make sure I don't make a German Shepherd pancake out of him, out of his ignorance and his hubris for being so damn young. Anywho, so I'm working through, I think, a second or third one here. Still haven't really observed that problem that you'll see me discuss here in a little bit about basically creating these big piles of wet clippings. Like there's one right there. See how dark that one is right there, and how it's rolled up. As you'll see here in a moment when I get the drag harrow out and try to really distribute this stuff, those really wet piles became more problematic. But by and large, I thought this technique worked pretty well. I would do it again with some modifications. This is just another interesting use. This is probably the 5th or 6th, 7th maybe technique I've developed using that box blade. And that was one of the first implements I bought for the tractor. As my neighbors will tell you, I use that thing quite effectively to rebuild our gravel road out there. Every time we have a big, huge rainstorm, we get some nasty runoff, and it creates some gullies and whatnot in our gravel road. So I use that box blade there with the hooks, the tines that you can kind of see in the video there, extended. Rip up the road and all the gravel, and make it nice and flat again. Anywho, I'm gonna shut up here and we'll go back to the next clip, and I'll be doing some talking there. Man, it's hot today. All right, you get the gist. Alrighty then. I think I got most of the green mulch spread. I mean, reasonably across the entire pasture, way out there. And now I'll get the drag harrow set up, and we'll drag it out and hopefully call it a day. There's enough sunlight. If I have enough energy, maybe I'll get the tiller out too and start doing some tilling. But that was a lot of work for one day. Thankfully, the tractor did most of the work. Come on, Doo-Doo. Doo-Doo got to chase his first mouse today. That was fun. Of course, he didn't catch it. No! So here's a creative way to use your pallet forks, if you have them. You need to untangle this drag harrow. It's like the ultimate fishing knot. And if it's laying on the ground, it's almost impossible for one person to do it. This thing weighs a couple 100 pounds. So I'm gonna use gravity basically. Hoist it up, and as soon as I get out from behind this camera, I'm gonna untangle this thing. Gravity will pull it flat. I'll lay it back down. Attach it to the back of the tractor, and off we go. Notice there's no puppy here. There's a reason for that. He's a dumbass, and he would get under it, probably get crushed. And then the last time I used this drag harrow, we had an incident where, thank God, I wasn't wearing earplugs, and I heard a yipe. And I turned around and looked behind me, and he was tangled up in this thing. Another couple seconds of dragging, I probably would have killed him. But this is not something to, not an implement to use around a stupid puppy. I learned that lesson the hard way. Thankfully, he didn't get killed or didn't break any legs or anything. But we learned from that mistake, and we'll never do it again. So he's in a cage right now. Learn something new every damn day. So we got the drag harrow set up. I did a couple test passes, and where the clover mulch is dry, you get a nice distribution like this. Perfect. Unfortunately, some of these piles, you can almost see them. When the pile is too moist still, the damn compost, or the mulch, loads up in the front of the drag harrow, and what happens, cut to the chase, is it basically just it's almost like baling it. It rolls it into like a big cigar, and it just rolls to the back, and out the back comes this round, there's one over there, big round tube. There's a huge one over there. You see how the dark ones, those are wet, and the drag harrow created these big old manure cigars. So what we got to do now, this is fun, is find these big ugly wet ones like I just did here. Yeah, like I got nothing but time to do shit like this. Well, actually this one's dry, and we got to do this just like I did on the clover pasture. When I planted the clover, I had to do the same damn thing with hay on top of the clover seed, so the clover seed wouldn't wash away. You may have seen that in a previous video also. So now I get to spend some time distributing clover mulch. Life is just a giggle box sometimes. If I could get Hui to help me, of course she just sits in the shade, this would be a lot easier. I'm not going to bore you guys with this. You get the gist. I got to untangle. It's like today's just like a day of untangling knots. Big old knots of green crap. Anywho, let me kill this video. Probably take me an hour to beat these things down, and then I'll get the drag harrow going again. Lord, I just want this to be done. Alrighty, so here's the deal. I figured it out. You know, like I said before, live and learn. This is the first time I've done this. I'd done some homework, so I kind of had an idea what I was doing. Cut to the chase. The mistake I made was it took me 2 days to compost all this stuff, Hui and I. And the first day, I started early. It was overcast. It eventually sprinkled a little bit. Perfect weather for being on a tractor for 10 hours. However, what I should have done is mulched all the clover and then let it sit on the surface for a couple of days and dehydrate, dry out. Because what I ended up doing was, within an hour or two, I started sweeping up these piles of crimson clover manure, and if you can see right here, this is one of the first piles. that is basically composting. I just reached my hand in there to grab a handful to mix it up, and it's like my hot compost pile. It's wet, it's soggy, it's goopy, and it's hotter than hell. So it's been sitting in the sun for a day and it's starting to compost. So the point is, because it was so wet, moist when I swept it up, it gummed up into big balls, and now it's it's clogging up the drag harrow. So for anybody that might be watching this video that could learn from my mistakes, if you're new to pasture maintenance and renovation like I am, and maybe you're, oh, my knees are giving out, and you're experimenting and doing things on the fly and learning just in time, as I am, then here's my lesson for you today, is when you mulch your cover crop, let it sit for a couple days in the sun, let it dehydrate, let the moisture content, I'm not going to measure it, but let it come down quite a bit, and then sweep it up. And the second day, the piles I had on the other end of the pasture were a lot drier, and when the drag harrow hit those things, it was like a hitting powder snow. Poof! It just distributed perfectly. These day one piles that were so moist, not so much. Won't make that mistake again, will we, Hooper? Hoopy, say no mistakes. Nope. Lesson number 3 for today. When you finally throw your back out and you can't bend over and pick the crap up anymore, good pair of boots work just as good. Nope. We don't need no tools. We don't need no technology. Just a decent pair of boots. Oh, that's a thick one. Yeah, you should get excited. This is your kind of thing. Come on, get to it. Do some kicking. Digging, something.